I want to bring in our first guest, Captain Sam Brown. He is a Purple Heart recipient, Afghanistan veteran, and Nevada senatorial candidate. Captain Brown, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You know what service and sacrifice mean in so many ways. So I want to thank you for your service, your sacrifice. As we talk about these 13 heroes, these 13 people who gave their lives trying to get other Americans out, trying to get other Afghani SIVs out because they've served our country. What is their service, what does their sacrifice mean to someone like you who's seen it so close?
The fact that we still have largely young men and women signing up, raising their right hand to serve this nation, put on their uniform and be ready at a moment's notice to deploy anywhere in the world on behalf of not only this country, but on behalf of other people who are seeking a life of liberty and freedom is humbling. It shouldn't just be humbling to folks like me who served and who paid a price, but I don't think it's a debt that most Americans fully understand just how severe it is, and that the ultimate cost can come in a moment's notice, as we unfortunately saw just this last week.
Can I just ask real quick, how many brothers and sisters in arms did you leave on the battlefield that died, while you were serving?
I had died in the same explosion that wounded me, and 4 of us were evacuated from that, and that was in Kandahar, Afghanistan in 2008.
Sam, we just heard from the Pentagon moments ago that every U.S. flight has left Afghanistan. What was your initial reaction when you heard that we had left earlier than that 31st deadline, which is tomorrow?
I just feel like this is one of those moments that will define American foreign policy for some time. It's going to take a lot of work to be able to earn back not only the trust of the international community, but also Americans. I believe that we have now crossed a Rubicon where we are no longer the dominant leader of a free world. And this is alarming to me. And I would attribute it largely to the fact that we have politicians and bureaucrats making these foreign policy decisions who have no real understanding of what the consequences of their ineptitude really is.
To get back to what Lindsay was saying just a minute ago, we're leaving in theory. I mean, obviously, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but if the Pentagon's saying, hey, the last flight out was today, as I just mentioned, I know of a U.S. citizen. I know of a family that is there, that is trying to get out. So what do you think this says to Americans and to allies that we know we have people there? We definitely know we have Afghani SIVs there. That's not even a question about it. I mean, I've heard about military service dogs. I mean, we got a lot more work to do, and we're announcing we're out 24 hours before the deadline.
I think that the clear signal here to Americans is that our U.S. government cannot be trusted to actually get the job done. The U.S. government will not follow through on its commitments and obligations. But the encouraging thing is that there are still Americans who are not necessarily still in uniform. Maybe they are veterans, maybe they're not. But there are people who are American citizens trying to help other American citizens and Afghans out. I think that the greater story here is that our U.S. government clearly is failing in doing its duty, but there are still many Americans who want to do the right thing, and we need to rally around those people. We need to celebrate their service, whether or not it's in uniform or in some sort of active duty status. There are great Americans trying to do the right thing, even without the support of our government. And this may just be a foreshadowing of things to come where Americans have to take care of Americans in other ways.
Sam, over the weekend, we watched the remains of the 13 service members arrive at Dover Air Base. And some of the family members have been outspoken about their frustrations with this administration. And as their heart breaks and our heart breaks for them with the loss of one of their family members, in your experience as a veteran, you've been in similar situations. how difficult is this for them specifically in this circumstance, and what can people do to help them be appreciated and honored?
One of the things that we can do is just have Americans become familiar with Gold Star families. There's a number of organizations that support those families. There's great nonprofits that honor the service and sacrifice of servicemen and women through scholarships for their children. And there's others like the Gary Sinise Foundation, which do a lot, especially for families who Gold Star families that do have children, to just continue to make them a part of a greater community, as well as parents. A lot of these service men and the one young Marine lady, are young, and so their parents and their brothers and sisters are also included in that. We need to make sure that the Gold Star families are supported, and there's great organizations that do that, and anyone in their community can look for local organizations like that through Google searches.
Sam, there's a video, now actually two videos, that have kind of gone viral. You've got a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps who shared a video criticizing military leadership in the wake of all these attacks. I want to play a little bit for you.
What I'll say is, from my position, potentially all those people did die in vain if we don't have senior leaders that own up and raise their hand and say, we did not do this well in the end.
Okay, so Sam, you've served in uniform. You know what the rules are. He has now subsequently released another video out of uniform saying that he's going to resign his commission at 17 years, which, you and I both know that puts you 3 short of getting your full 20, all your benefits. But he's willing to sacrifice because he wants to speak out more. So I think the question I have for you is, there's a lot of people who have been saying, well, God, I sympathize with that guy. And there's a line that needs to go, right? So between people who are serving in uniform and not. What did you think of his message?
I thought that was an example of someone doing what they believed in their heart to be the right thing. The one thing I would disagree with is, that their service was in vain. Those young Marines and one corpsman did a lot in their time there to help not only Americans but Afghans escape what was undeniably a terrible, terrible situation. So they did make a big difference. That part was not in vain, and I would disagree with that. But I do agree with the premise that we have senior leaders who, it appears, had better knowledge or understanding about the exact risks that they were then telling subordinate commands to implement. And if they know the risk, they knew that these type of outcomes were inevitable, I am shocked and displeased that we don't have more protest like this from senior leaders who say, I cannot tell my subordinate commanders to execute a mission like this that will end in so much loss of life and harm.
Sam, before we let you go, many Republicans and Democrats across the aisle have been urging for this August 31st deadline to be extended. Now that we know that the U.S. is out of Afghanistan, is there any option to get these U.S. citizens out or allies that are on the ground? Is that possible in any way?
It appears that our Department of Defense and the greater U.S. government is not going to be sponsoring or supporting that. But I do know that there are organizations, largely nonprofit organizations, that are, continuing to deploy their own assets, whether it's aircraft or sort of smuggling people out of the country in some manner or form. And so my hope is that those organizations will continue to operate, that they will be safe. But I am very dismayed that our government will not be supporting any of those efforts in any capacity. And it's frankly a shame upon our country that we have done this. And in the press conference from the Pentagon today after the last flight left, saying that there was, some hundreds of Americans left, but, even if we extended by 10 days, someone would still be disappointed, to me is a cowardice statement and not one done with any sort of moral authority.
Yeah. Sam, thank you for your service. Thank you for joining us, and look forward on checking back on better days about how your campaign's going.
Thank you, Sean.